Welcome back to the Michigan Business Beat, brought to you on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman, and we are here in our downtown studios in Lansing, Michigan. We're going to run a little east here, right up Grand River, so to speak, and we're going to spend a little time on the campus at MSU with Dr. Jabbar Bennett. He's with the Michigan State University Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer. And welcome to the show, Doctor. It's good to have you on.
Good morning. Thank you so much, and great to be here.
So you, MSU is just releasing diversity, equity, and inclusion framework to inform the strategic planning efforts. Tell me about what that is and how that's going to work.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk about the framework itself and the actual plan that we'll develop in the coming months. But back in January 2020, President Stanley charged a group to come together and think about what are the actions that we could take to really help advance diversity, equity, inclusion in a strategic way and in a way that would make a difference on campus to our Spartans and to main functions on campus. So two co-chairs were identified to lead this effort, and they worked with over 35 or so committee members, including students, faculty, and staff, some of which are alumni, and some external advisors to think about what the recommendations should be in the areas they should cover, and all of the ways that we could really think about enhancing diversity, equity, inclusion, again, in a meaningful way for members of our community.
So this was a pretty arduous task. I mean, you talked to a lot of people, a lot of groups, and came out with a lot of stuff. That vetting of what's important and what's not, and where there's consensus, et cetera, that had to be huge.
Absolutely, it was huge, but we were really intentional about making this process as inclusive as possible. So along with the 30-plus individuals who worked on the plan, as I stated, starting back in January 2020 and really completing their work back in April of this year, there was a lot of engagement of community members, stakeholders on campus. So colleagues who ran the committee and participated on the committee held over 53 listening sessions. And in those listening sessions, we engaged over 400 people to talk about the work that was imagined, and also just to get from our community members, our Spartans, what are their aspirations for this work. So quite a bit of conversation.
So who was the, not the audience, but who was the sample group? I mean, were they all MSU affiliates, graduates, present students?
Great question. When the listening sessions took place, these were basically folks who were on campus. There were some students, faculty, and staff. Alumni and external stakeholders were consulted later in the process, but in the beginning, right, it was mostly folks on campus.
Dr. Bennett, what were some of the major themes that came out of this?
Absolutely. So there are four major themes that came out of the conversations that led to the development of the framework, and you'll see that in the document itself. But those four major themes are increase diversity, ensure equity, promote inclusion, and enhance outreach and engagement.
Well, those are pretty big numbers. Now, what is next? Is there action with this, and the reason I ask this is because I work with and consult a lot of small businesses, and we work arduously on business plans, and then I meet with them the next year, and there's dust on the business plan, right?
Absolutely.
So it either doesn't get implemented, doesn't get revisited, and we all know circumstances change.
Absolutely. No, thank you for that question. This is not another report or plan that will sit on a shelf. The next thing we'll do, and what my role is, to really help begin exploring implementation. So we want to look at the feasibility of the proposed recommendations. We want to think about how they might be prioritized. And more importantly, too, or as importantly, is thinking about how we'll determine what metrics are going to be appropriate to gauge our progress. And along with those metrics, working collectively with executive management and others to think about accountability, various structures, and how we'll approach that across these recommendations.
All right. So will this be an ongoing thing then? Will this be for a university who hasn't had a strategic plan, so to speak? Will this be something that will maybe annually be revisited?
Absolutely. So we refer to this often as a living document. It will be revisited each year, and there will also be updates shared each year, externally facing with our campus community and others, and also sharing updates with our board of trustees. It's really important that everyone understand what we're doing, but also to understand their individual role in this collective process to advance diversity, equity, inclusion.
Well, going back to the strategic plan, it's kind of interesting if everybody that was involved in the strategic plan got in front of as many people as you did and got opinions and had to vet all those opinions, this is going to be a pretty comprehensive plan.
Absolutely. We have been quite aspirational in our goals here in advancing diversity, equity, inclusion in various ways. And it is going to take some time and to be really thoughtful again in the implementation process as we're planning for it. But yes, we have some lofty goals, but I know that we'll do it because Spartans will. We'll do it.
Yeah,
We'll get it
that's
done.
exactly. I like that. That should be on a billboard, Doctor.
It may be.
Well, and the person who I know they have yet to actually name the person who's going to drive the strategic plan, but I got to feel they got to be someone who knows MSU extremely well.
Well, I tell you, so, and just to clarify a bit, there is an institutional strategic plan and this DEI steering committee report that were developed simultaneously. So what this report does and the recommendations that I talked about in the 4 areas we'll focus on really help to build out the work that will be done in the broader institution strategic plan. And what I'm happy to say is that for the institutional plan, diversity, equity, inclusion is a key priority on its own, as well as being integrated across the others.
You've done some amazing work, and I want to thank you for sharing with us today. Continued good luck, and we'll bother you for an update when we see this thing come to fruition.
Absolutely, and thank you for your time and interest too.
Dr. Jabbar Bennett, Michigan State University Vice President and Chief Diversity Officer, thanks for being with us. You're watching the Michigan Business Beat on the Michigan Business Network. I'm Chris Holman. As always, we'll be right back with a whole lot more.